with our hearts full and our minds full and our spirits lifted. But just in case someone walked in down, someone walked in still sad, still grieving, still mourning, still trying to figure out how you're going to carry your load in this new year with unanswered questions and with perplexities and uncertainties, I want to invite you to the book of Exodus today, the 33rd chapter of Exodus. Exodus 33. We're going to commence at verse 12. Exodus 33. Commencing in verse 12, it says in the English Standard Version, Moses said to the Lord, "See, you say to me, bring up this people, but you have not let me know whom you will send with me. Yet you have said, I know you by name, and you've also found favor in my sight. Now therefore, if I have found favor in your sight, please show me now your ways, that I may know you in order to find favor in your sight. Consider too that this nation is your people." And he said, "My presence will go with you, and I will give you rest." And he said to him, "If your presence will not go with me, do not bring us up from here. For how shall it be known that I have found favor in your sight, I and your people? Is it not in your going with us, so that we are distinct, I and your people, from every other people on the face of the earth?" And finally, verse 17, "And the Lord said to Moses, this very thing that you have spoken, I will do, for you have found favor in my sight, and I know you by name." You may be seated in God's awesome presence. Thank you, ushers and choir, music ministry leaders, and each of you in God's house today. I want to preach from the subject of this first sermon in this new year for us. Give God an ultimatum. Some of you are wondering, are you sure, Pastor, that that's what you want to preach from today? Yes. I'm here to preach from the subject today. Give God an ultimatum.
Well,
usually, when you and I think of ultimatums, we typically think of situations or circumstances where we have come to an impasse in a relationship. Whether we are in a marital relationship or in a friendship, in a family relationship, in a collegial relationship, a fraternal relationship, or a sisterhood relationship, if you will. But whatever the relationship is, normally you don't hear someone give an ultimatum unless they have reached a point in the relationship where he or she feels that they cannot go any further unless there are some terms laid out.
well,
Are you going to help me today?
Yeah.
I won't take long today. The definition of an ultimatum is a final uncompromising demand, or a set of terms that are issued by a party in a dispute.
Yes, sir.
With the understanding that the rejection of these terms may lead to a severance, a separation that ends the relationship.
Okay.
An uncompromising demand. An uncompromising demand. A set of terms that someone issues when they reach the point where they recognize they cannot go further unless certain things are understood.
Right. All right.
Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there with a fraternity brother? Have you ever been there with a sorority sister? Have you ever been there with a family member? Have you ever been there with your cousin and them?
Yep.
Your uncle and them? Have you ever been there with someone you work with, where something has been said, something has occurred, and you have reached the place that you had to put your foot down, and you've drawn a line, if you will, in the sand, to say, excuse me, that if you and I are going to go forward, then we have to have a talk. Right. Some folk call it a come to Jesus.
Yeah.
Meeting. Have you ever been there? Where you had to lay out some terms that if they are not going to be agreed upon, then you are forfeiting your presence and participation in the relationship.
Yep.
That you have reached a point where you refuse to go forward anymore unless there are some things that are understood. Have you ever felt like you had to give God an ultimatum? Most of us, if we're honest, feel as though you and I should be afraid to dare utter an ultimatum to an almighty God.
My.
And you know what? You're right. Normally, I would agree with you. But can I tell you something today? On this first Sunday in 2019, together in the house of God, we see a rare occasion where it is okay to give an almighty God an ultimatum.
Teach, Doc.
Stay with me. We hear a man, a human being, give an almighty God what is basically an ultimatum. How do I know? Because I just read it for you. Moses tells God, God, you told me what you wanted me to do. But God, you have left something important out of the equation.
Yeah.
He said, God, you told me you want me to bring this people up and out of slavery. You told me that you were preparing us for that, and that not only was I supposed to bring them out, but that I was going to take them forward, and that you would be with us, that we would have your favor. But God, you have not reassured me that you would go with me. And God, if you don't go, I'm not.
That's the text, Doc.
That was Moses giving God an ultimatum. And the only reason Moses did not die on sight is because he spoke from a place of truth and a place of humility.
Yeah.
He did not come arrogantly, he did not come presumptuously, but he came honestly and he came audaciously. And he said, God, I can't do this without you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you know what my basic message is for us in 2019 on today? You and I need to understand this one message, this one point of emphasis. And here it is. God in 2019 needs to know that you know how much you need him.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. That's it.
That's as simple as I can put it, and that's all I have today. So get with me now, because I'm going to be done in just a few minutes, and you're going to miss it if you're looking for something else. All I've come to say today is that God in 2019, despite what you tried to do and failed to do in 2018 because you tried to do it on your own and with your intelligence and with your resume and with your finances and with your communication and your connections and all those things. But despite how badly it didn't go well when you tried to do it by yourself last year, what God wants from you this year and what he wants from me this year is to know that we know how much we need.
Yeah.
And everybody here that woke up this morning grateful that you are aware that God woke you up this morning. Anybody here that's grateful that you are aware that God brought you here this morning, that God watched over you last night, that God kept you in your right mind, that God keeps all of your organs functioning, that God guided that pilot through the sky when you were seated in your seat and turbulence took over the airplane, that God guided your automobile and God kept you on the highway. Anybody here that knows that God kept your marriage together, that God kept your children from harm's way, that even if God took somebody from you, he kept you with joy in your heart and encouragement in your spirit and forgiveness in your heart and grace and mercy and love and power and patience and long-suffering, and all these things have kept you where you are. Do I have anybody here that can just take 5 seconds and say, God, I love you. God, I thank you. And if you don't take me into 2019, then God, I can't go.
Reverend! Yeah! I can't go. Yeah!
I can't do it. If you're not with me.
Woo! Good stick. That's a good stick, Doc. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Yes, sir.
So, as strange as it sounds, I'm here to tell you, give God the ultimate.
Yeah.
Because God wants to know how much you know you need him. This book of Exodus, very quickly, is a book of departure.
Yes.
And so, God has the power to bring us out of something that we can't get ourselves out of. And so he demonstrates
Yes, sir.
his power to emancipate, because you remember that in Exodus 3, that God said, I have seen the affliction, and I've heard the cries of my people who are in Egypt. I've heard their cry because of their wicked taskmasters. And I'm aware of their suffering, and I have come down to deliver them out of the hands and out of the grip of the Egyptians. And I'm not only going to bring them out of the land they're in, but I'm going to bring them into a good and broad land, a land that's flowing with milk and honey. Because God not only demonstrates power to bring us out of what we're stuck in, not only does he emancipate us, but God can establish us. God brings us out in order to bring us in. God takes us up in order to take us into something better. Aren't you glad that God doesn't just bring you out of where you were, but He's taking you to something, that He's taking you into something better, that He has the power not only to emancipate and rip you from the grips of what had you bound, but He can take you into where you can exercise your new fulfillment and freedom.
Yeah.
So, the Bible says that the Lord saved Israel from the hand of the Egyptians. And watch this. Israel saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. The same shore that they walked across. Those same waters that stood at attention collapsed, came together, and drowned the enemy Egyptians. And Israel, the Bible says, saw the great power that God used on that day. And here's what they did. So they feared the Lord. And they believed in the Lord and His servant Moses. And can I tell you something? When God does something for you, you ought to reverentially fear Him. Reverently fear Him. That means have so much respect. Have the utmost respect for God that you fear Him. Not fear Him because you're intimidated, but you fear Him because you respect Him. Because you recognize if it had not been for God's awesome power, you could have not been extricated and emancipated from what had you bound. Can anybody remember that you were bound at one point to something? Now see, some of us get self-righteous because we think that because we've never been addicted to a controlled substance that we were never bound to anything. But can I drop some in on you real quick? You don't have to be addicted to drugs and alcohol to be bound. You can be bound by a sinful attitude. You can be bound by pride and by arrogance and by manipulation and by deviousness and by a devious, wicked spirit. So you can be bound by a whole lot of stuff. And somebody ought to give God praise that where you were is not where you are. That God has brought you forward, and you may not be where you want to be, but you ought to thank God that you're not where you used to be. That you may not, you may still use some foreign language at times, but you don't use as much as you used to. That you may roll your eyes every now and then, but you don't roll them at folk as often as you used to. That you not have to stop like cussing somebody out like you used to. That you not fly off the handle as much as you used to.
Yeah.
That you're not 0 to 60 as often as you used to be.
Help yourself.
Didn't Steve Harvey say one time, don't trip,
God.
because God ain't through with me.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything Brother Harvey says, but I agree with that one. Don't trip, because God ain't through with me yet. Can anybody just be glad because you know that God didn't throw you away? That God has allowed us to come into His house as low down as we have been, as sneaky and low down and devious as some of us have been, with all the ditches that we tried to dig for somebody else, and with all the ditches that somebody else tried to dig for us, that God guided our footsteps and allowed us to come into the sanctuary, that when the winds of life were blowing, that we learned how to rock with the wind, because God didn't stop the wind, but He gave you strength to stand in the midst of the storm. God has been good.
Yeah. Yes, He has.
So I need to hurry.
Yes, sir.
And so here we are. Very quickly, I'm done. Moses has a dilemma. Moses has a dilemma. Because Moses recognizes that God has moved into a very dangerous territory. Because if you go back and read it on your own time in Exodus 32, you find out that when Moses was spending time with God, that the people lost all of their good sense.
Yeah. Teach, Doc. Teach.
They got impatient. And they became idolatrous.
Teach.
They tried to substitute and direct and express love and affection and allegiance in front of a golden calf.
Teach, Doc.
While Moses was spending time with an almighty God.
Teach.
So when Moses returns, there's trouble. Because God has said, this is a stiff-necked people. And I'm no longer going to accompany you into your future. I brought you out, but I'm not taking you in because you've been disobedient. You have thrown yourselves in front of a golden calf when I was spending time with your leader. And so Moses now has the responsibility of interceding on behalf of God's people.
Yeah.
And that's where you hear Moses say, God, now you told me that you were going to bring us up. But you have not told me, God, that you were going to come with me. You told me that we would be favored, that you know me by name. But then, God, you said that you're not willing to come. So, God, I need you to reconsider. Have you ever had to pray the prayer of reconsideration? Where you ask God, you tell God, God, I know I messed up, but I need you to reconsider. God, I know I dropped the ball, but I'm asking you to reconsider. Because God, if you don't reconsider, and if you don't take me forward, I'm not going. So here's what I need to say. This is what Moses said. He gave God an ultimatum. God, I can't go if you don't go. Because he recognized the dangers of God's absence.
Yeah.
He recognized the dangers of God's absence. He understood what it would mean if God was absent. If they went forward. Because look at verse 13. He says, if I found favor in your sight, then I need you to show me your ways, that I may know in order to find favor in your sight. God, I'm trying to regain favor. If God, you have favored us, then I need to know what you're doing. Because God's absence brings and makes us void of direction.
Yeah.
That's the first danger of God's absence. You and I become void of direction. We can't recognize or discern where God is taking us. Because God gives us the power to discern what he's doing. He doesn't always spell it out completely, but he gives us the power of discernment to sense and to recognize, and he'll give us glimpses every now and then to see a tidbit, a sneak peek, a glimpse of his glory and what's ahead. So you and I become void of direction when God is absent. Thank you, Holy Ghost. Do you remember when Samson woke up in the lap of Delilah? Bible says that he tried to shake himself free, as he had on other occasions, but could not do it because he did not even realize that God was no longer with him. And brothers and sisters, you and I don't want to go in 2019 and meander through 2019 aimlessly, void of direction, because God is absent. Because we've not been willing to urgently say, God, I can't do it without you. So we're void not only of direction, but watch this, we're also void of protection. The danger of God's absence is not only that we're void of direction, we're void of protection. Because look at what he said. He says, consider too, God, remember, this nation is, watch the language, your people. Because remember, he said, God told him He promised, I'm going to drive out. Go back and read the earlier verses of chapter 33. He said, God told him that he would send an angel to drive out the present occupants of the land. So Moses recognizes, even if God sends the angel to drive the people that are there out of there, if God doesn't stay with Israel, then everybody that was driven out can come back. So he says, if your presence does not remain among us, those who were driven out have the capacity to come back. Because if God is not with us, not only do we not see enemies be driven out, but we become vulnerable and defenseless. Have you ever thought about the fact that if God had not been there, then you would be subject to the attacks that you can't even see? That when we say that God is watching over us, when we were unaware of dangers that are seen and unseen. You remember that phrase? Dangers seen and unseen. This is what Moses understood, that there are dangers seen and unseen. And you and I are not only void of direction, but we're void of protection. And that's the danger of God's absence. That because God's people were distinguished, they didn't have to be defenseless. And can you and I not take a moment and think about the fact that that's really a place where you ought to shout? The only reason you're not defenseless is because God has distinguished you. God has put his eyes on you. God has put a special relationship intact just for you because of your faith in him. And that leads us to this final point. Not only should we recognize the dangers of God's absence, but finally, and I'm done, we have to recognize the power of God's affection. Because look at verse 17. The Bible says, the Lord said to Moses, this very thing you've spoken, I will do. Here's why. For you found favor in my sight, and I do in fact know you. By name. Now remember, earlier Moses questioned. He said, God, if you know me by name, and if you're going to favor me, then you need to understand, God, I'm not going without you. God responds by saying, this very thing you've spoken, I will do, because you do indeed have my favor, and I do indeed know your name. It simply signals, and I'm done, that God put a special mark on his people. That God made up in his mind that nothing would happen to Israel that did not first go through him. That nothing Israel would encounter or face would take place without God's permission. And all I've come to say is you and I can go into this year with confidence, because nothing you and I will face will come outside of divine purview. That means if it's happening to you, God already knows about it. If it's happening to you, God's already authorized it. If it's painful for you, God's already made provisions to sustain you. That if it's rocky right now, God is never caught off guard, because God has brought you to where you are, and he'll take you to where he wants you to be. And so you and I ought to thank God that when you and I give him the ultimatum that we cannot make it and we refuse to go without his powerful presence, that he responds so graciously by letting us know that you and I are favored and that he knows us by name. You know what I really love about that? That he knows my name and he knows your name. And when I call him, he's never confused on what I've asked for, and doesn't ever get mixed up with what you've asked for. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad, because sometimes I need peace when you need provision. And God can give you provision at the same time he's giving me peace. Sometimes somebody needs a job, and somebody else needs a promotion. And he can give somebody a job while he gives somebody else a promotion. Somebody over here needs gas in their car, and somebody over here needs a car to begin with.
Yeah.
And he'll give you gas in your car and give you a car that you can climb in and start driving. Somebody over here needs somebody that needs to be healed, and somebody over here lost somebody that God chose not to heal. And God can heal over here and give you peace and strength and comfort over here, even if He took from you the person that you love so much. All I'm saying is He knows your name and knows what you need and knows my name and knows what I need. And because He knows your name, you are called His name. Because He knows your name, you are shout His name. Because He knows your name, you'll not be ashamed to call His name. He is our provider. He is our protector. He is our banner. He is strong and mighty. He is gracious. He is merciful. And He is Lord. And because He knows you by name, you can go to God and give Him up to me.
Yeah.
And God, if you don't come with me,
I ain't going.
I'm not going.
Yeah. I ain't going.
Ruth told Naomi, where you go, because there's something going on with you and your God. Where you go, that's where I'm going. And you got to make up your mind in 2019 that you're not going to make any decisions. You're not going to make any choices. You're not going to get married. You're not going to date anybody. You're not going to invest your money in anything without first going to God. Because here's what you save yourself. You save yourself the heartache of having to come back to the Lord and tell Him, Lord, I'm sorry. You tried to tell me not to go left and to go right. But I went left and you allowed me to stay on there long enough, and I got so sick of where I was stuck in that, Father, here I am. And I want to do it your way. So you ought to thank God today. I said you ought to thank God today that God allowed you to come back to me and tell Him, God, I'm sorry. I want to do it your way. Let us